Hi, everyone. My name's Martha Manriquez. I'm the coordinator in the Graduate Student Center. And with me, we have our two student assistants in the GSC, Abby Kirkendall, Samantha Samudio, and our presenter today is financial aid counselor Luis Yepez. Thank you, Luis. He's going to do a presentation, and then you can ask questions at the end. And I will stop the recording at the end of the presentation, and you can ask your questions. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Luis Yepez. I am a financial aid counselor here at CSUB, and I'm going to discuss some of the financial opportunities with attending and obtaining a graduate degree. So first things first, I do want to talk about is there are application fees. So I know through Cal State Apply, there are going to be application fees that students have to pay. Um, some schools, at least I know in particular CSUB doesn't. We don't offer any waivers, but some other schools might. They might have merit-based waivers where they could potentially offer the no fee application. I do want to highlight in the middle part, there are current testing fees. So the GRE, GMAT, and then the LSAT as well. So it's always going to be best to contact your schools, whether it's CSUB or somewhere else, regarding the specifics of any testing fees or any application fees to apply to those programs. Um, so one of the other biggest things we want to focus on is going to be published cost of attendance versus actual out-of-pocket cost. Um, Published tuition rates can always be a little misleading the way they kind of presented. So it's always going to be it's always important to find out what your out-of-pocket costs will be, and what those fixed costs are. So on the next slide here, I'm going to show you an example of a cost of attendance budget. This is for CSUB in particular. Cost-wise, please note that CSUB at least has a 0 to 6 units. You're charged a certain fee. 6.1 units or more, you're going to be charged the higher tier on the tuition portion. So it's a two-tier charge. So 0 to 6 is one, 6.1 and above will be another charge, or the higher tuition charge. When looking at the cost of attendance, all of these costs, if you can see my cursor here, the only real fixed costs that you have, like if you're an on-campus or housing or on-campus students or off-campus, and you live locally, so I'm going to reference Bakersfield residents, it's going to be the system-wide tuition fee and then the mandatory campus fees. Please note that if you're doing the MBA program, at least at CSUB, they do have an additional fee of 321 units per $321 per unit. So if you're in 6 units, let me do the math really quick for you. Times six. That's an extra $1,900 or so. So 1926 is what you would pay. So that in itself would be your fixed cost. Living expenses as it pertains to food, that can vary. Living expense for housing, that will vary. Books and supplies, that can be substantially cheaper than what we have. These are all just stated estimates. They're not actual costs that you will actually be paying. Same for transportation, personal expense, and then direct loan fees. Those are just fees related to taking out the loans. So although a cost of attendance budget sets what it could estimate to cost here at the university, so a commuter, 28,000, on campus, 34,000, off campus is going to be 40. So the real fixed cost to look at is going to be the system-wide tuition fee and the mandatory campus fees. That ends up coming out to $12,008 per year, at least for 26, 27, and then about $6,000 per semester in fixed cost. Um, Moving on, the other biggest thing to look at when deciding between MBA programs, whether it's at CSUB, at other CSUs, or out of state, is always do your research. It's important to do your research with the majors and every market. So obviously some jobs in Los Angeles will pay more than CSU, or I guess students in Kern County, Central Valley due to the cost of living, and they have that, different cost of living that's going to affect how much they can pay you. So same goes for the jobs. Some jobs offer more compared to others. So it's always going to be important you do your research for those majors and markets you plan to live in or stay in. Okay. So applying for aid. So if you plan to stay in California and receive financial aid through Obviously the FAFSA or the DREAM Act, it's going to be important that you submit your FAFSA application or DREAM Act before March 2nd. There is priority funding awarded to students who meet the March 2nd deadline. If you were to go to out-of-state schooling, please note that some states have different dates or priority deadlines. So at least for California, it is March 2nd. And what are we at today? Today's the 20th. So we have about 12, 13 more days, give or take, in order to complete that application. So it is important, and I will show you important here in the next slide why it's important to complete the application. If you are a DREAM student, you're going to be doing the CATA application only. And if you are a FAFSA student, you're only going to be doing the FAFSA for that specific 8 years. So if you plan to attend 26-27 school year, the application deadline is March 2nd. So we have about 12 days. And then types of aid. So there are very unique types of aid that are offered. In particular, I'm familiar with CSUBs and some of the CSUs, but as it pertains to outside universities going out of state, they will have different types of maybe merit-based scholarships and other types of opportunities. As it pertains to CSUB, we do offer scholarships to students, so obviously that is funding you do not have to pay back. We have grants. The one in particular is going to be the state university grant and then the MBA grant fee that helps cover some of the cost. There are various fellowships, so graduate students or postgraduate scholars that they compete for. Fellows are selected based on their potential to make a positive, lasting contribution to their academic discipline. So I know a lot of the various schools here have stipends. I know that because I'm actually the one who awards it. So, like, I know nursing graduate program has some. I know some of the STEM, geology have those fellowships. There are also assistantships or work studies, so funds earned through the work that you complete. And then obviously the big one is going to be loans, whether it's federal or private loans. Those typically will be offered at any university, whether it's California or out of state as well. Please note that any scholarships that you do apply for, though that funding, at least if you apply through CSUB, will only stay at CSUB. They will not go towards any other school if you decide to, go to another CSU or a UC. So federal student aid program. So the types of aid is going to be the graduate/professional federal student unsubsidized loan. So that comes out to 20,500 per year. That splits to 10,250 per semester, and that's the unsubsidized loan. That is a loan that starts accruing interest right away. The loan is through the Department of Education. Okay. If we have credential students on, they have a little bit more funding. They're getting the subsidized. Those students that could qualify for the subsidized, the interest does not occur until 6 months after you complete the program or withdraw or stop attending. Credential students do qualify for the federal teach grant, Golden State Teach Grant, if funding is available for 26-27, the middle class scholarship, or federal work study as well. State aid programs. So for our graduate students, they can qualify for the state university grant. The total amount is 8,600, sorry, 8,064 for grad. This state university grant only covers tuition. So if I scroll back to mandatory campus fees, that fee is what you would have to pay out of pocket. So at least the state university grant will help cover all the tuition cost if funding is available and you qualify for it. Same will be for the credential students. It's 7,488 for the year, and that also only covers tuition. It does not cover the campus-based fees. And the one of the biggest important things about applying before the March 2nd deadline is that our office in particular for students here, we will only consider students who submitted their FAFSA application before the March 2nd deadline. So if you qualify for the state university grant, but you did not submit before the March 2nd deadline, unfortunately, we will not consider you for those funds until everybody who qualifies for the state university grant has been awarded and met the priority deadline. So we have about 12 days if you're considering or thinking of attending for the 26-27 master's program, whether here or at another university. Just please make sure you complete it before March 2nd. That way you at least put yourself in contention to qualify by meeting that date. There is an MBA grant, so they do help offset some of the cost for the MBA fees if you were to have to pay that. And then there are several new state grants for credential students, as mentioned before. So um, credential students do have a little bit more funding compared to graduates. Um, and then fellowships, there is the Graduate Equity Fellowship. CSUB awards typically around $5,000 to $3,000 per year for assisting with your cost and tuition. And then lastly, there are private loans. So those would be alternative loans that you seek out through your private bank or financial institution that you are comfortable with. Private loans do have substantially high rates compared to federal loans that are offered. I think the federal loan right now is like at 6.7, which is high. But if you compare it to the private, where they can get up to like 22, 25% in interest rate, that is a little bit better. So please note though, for 26, 27, the interest rates have not been released yet. So those will vary year to year. So obviously, as I mentioned before, grants will vary state by state, so it's not guaranteed. Scholarships and fellowships and assistantships will also vary per school, program, and major. We do offer substantial scholarships to our post-bac students to help obviously with their costs. So we do have this website link here. We'll go ahead and post that in the chat. The CSUB scholarship application closes, well, the priority deadline for that is March 2nd. So it's important you complete that March 2nd application for the CSUB scholarship. So we are currently open and, accepting scholarship applications. So obviously receiving aid as a CSUB graduate student, obviously it's important to submit your FAFSA or DREAM Act, either one. Submit all the required documentation for that. Admissions, it's important that you will have to be admitted on campus. And for credential students to qualify for grants and loans, you'll need to be fully admitted into a credential program. So if you're going that route, that's going to be very important. So enrollment for graduate students needs to at least be 3 units graduate level. That puts you at half-time status. Credential students, it's still going to be similar to undergrad. So 6 units is considered half-time. 12 units for credential students is full-time. So also with graduates, 6 units is considered full-time as a graduate student. So most importantly as well, SAP, the GPA requirement does increase. So as an undergraduate, students are required to maintain a 2.0 GPA. As you go into a post-bac career, you're going to have to maintain a 3.0 GPA. Optional, but obviously it's going to be important that if you do seek to receive refunds, whether it's here or somebody else, it's going to be important that you set up your direct deposit. That way those funds can go back to you via Bank Mobile. Lastly, I'll take any questions and answer as best I can for you guys.